Too oftentimes seeing people trying to navigate recovery without a sponsor. This becomes clear. We in Catholic in Recovery will have a new group that goes through the steps here shortly, but I've had the pleasure of taking large groups of people in a virtual setting through the 12 steps using the Catholic in Recovery workbook. And those who have a sponsor already going into that and can bounce off the 12-step work with their sponsor and be guided both by the workbook group, and their sponsor seem to find the most fruit in that gathering. Those who don't have a sponsor are usually struck, especially when we get to the fourth step and the fifth step of, I don't have a sponsor, and it seems really necessary now to have a sponsor. As someone who can provide some individual attention to the challenges that might arise, someone who we can share honestly with, who we might not feel comfortable sharing all of our stuff with in a group setting. I mean, I've heard it said before in recovery as well that we bring our problems to our sponsors, we bring our solutions to the group. And that can be helpful too, especially not wanting to provide too much specificity or detail into our challenges in any kind of recovery group, whether it's related to alcohol, drugs, lust, sex, food, family impact of addiction, etc. We don't want to just be bringing all of these details that might be quite sensitive to a group level, but those are things that we can be sharing very honestly and openly with our sponsor. In fact, my sponsor and past sponsors know just as much about me as perhaps my wife does or anyone else does, and have gotten to know the dark parts, the things that I've tried to hold secret, and being able to experience the mercy and the love even amidst my imperfections with the sponsor has really been, and I would say, the eyes of God looking back at me in many ways.
Yeah, I've talked to several people who they might express that, okay, I went to a 12-step recovery group and it didn't work for me and I don't really get it. Like, I don't really talk, and like if I don't talk, then it doesn't really matter because I'm not really telling him anything. And I always like kind of step back from that and I'm like, do you have a sponsor? Because like your sponsor is the person that you like share your life with and you talk about these things and they give you feedback and like all that happens with your sponsor. Like when you go to the meeting, hopefully you have an experience of listening to a bunch of healthy people talk about how their life is better now. Right? Like if they're bringing their solutions to the meeting and there's a good meeting culture and there's a culture of sobriety in the meeting. But so many people, I think when they start off in recovery, they're dabbling in recovery, they'll go, but they don't like take the step of getting a sponsor. Like I remember walking with somebody and they were like, okay, I'm going to meetings. If I relapse one more time, I'll finally get a sponsor. Right. Because I want to try to get better without getting a sponsor. And then they got a sponsor and then like their life is like completely different and it's way better. And this person knows everything. And it's a joy when they finally, get there. It takes a lot of patience when we're walking with people, like waiting for them to get to that point. But it's just when people's lives get better, it's just so good. And there's a couple of young men that I'm working with right now, and they've really made a lot of sacrifices to go to daily meetings for a while, and they got sponsors, and then they talked to me about their relationship with their sponsor, and I'm just incredibly grateful. Like as a priest who's walking with them, I'm so grateful because there's somebody else that's taking their phone calls every day, and it spreads out the load on me. Because going back to like spiritual director versus sponsor, when you're a spiritual director, like you're just like holding everything and then hoping that the guy like can hold on for 3 weeks until you meet again. And it just gives me a lot more freedom or security or joy to know that our Lord is like spreading out the load with regard to like what the Lord wants to do in this person's life.